Okay. All right, perfect. I think I got it here. We are live now. What is going on, everybody? Going to do some live Q&A here. I apologize for the little delay. For some reason, the one that I had scheduled and sent everybody the link to, I could not figure out how to get it going. So not sure what was going on there. There wasn't any start button or anything like that. So see lots of people strolling in here already. That is awesome. We got 16 of you on here. Legendary Ecom, Brian, Pat, MMK, Pat, Al, Lorit311. What is going on? Appreciate everybody joining me here. I am going to jump over and open up the other live screen because people were commenting there. Make sure I don't miss any questions or anything. Let's see. All right. Can you guys hear me and everything just fine? Let me know in the chat there if you can hear me good. All right, Tina says yes. Mabob says yes. I probably butchered your name. Sorry about that. Miss Cat, hello. Brian, all right. Looks like people can hear me. That is awesome. So go ahead and drop your questions in the comments here, and we can get started. Probably one of the big things that people have been talking about lately as people start posting their questions is the buy box issue. Some of you out there probably have been having that issue where as of this last month, some people's sales have just like dropped off the face of the planet and gone to zero in a lot of cases. My sales personally have been up. So, it's been okay for me, but some people have just seen a complete drop off in sales, and it's been going around if that's a bug because Amazon is messing up. They're not rotating the buy box is what's happening. People are getting stuck in the buy box. And so that is causing some people to lose a lot of sales. And it's really kind of scary because people are like, should I send anything else in? I don't know. I'm not getting any sales. What's going on? The new thought now is that it's maybe not a bug. It could be a feature. Larry Lebowski over at Watch Me Amazon was talking about this today. And it could be a feature that maybe Amazon is trying to clear out warehouses that are overstocked. So they're just selling sellers who have stock in there. Or maybe it is they're focusing on sellers with a lot of positive feedback rating so that they can make sure that they're getting good products, something like that. It's kind of going back and forth, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So let me know if anybody's had problems with that at all, and we can dive into that a little bit more. But it's definitely been an interesting time. We're during the pandemic, things have been crazy. A lot of weird things have been happening. So hopefully this will go back to normal, but it's hard to say here. So let's see. We got some questions rolling in. Legendary Ecom Leads asks, how long have you been doing wholesale? Let's see. I think since 2015 is when I officially started doing wholesale. More seriously, 2016, 2017, when I really started getting into it here. Let's see. Al says, you are awesome. Appreciate that, Al. You are awesome as well. Oscar, how do you ship pallets from a residential address? So I have a warehouse now, so I don't have to deal with that anymore. But before I got the warehouse, I was shipping out of my garage. And basically, I was doing it the same as I'm shipping out of the warehouse now. A lot of it was, UPS. So UPS would pick up that. But I shipped pallets as well. And the semi pulled up to the house, and we loaded the pallet onto the truck. Usually they'll have a pallet jack and everything, and they just took it from there. So, I've been lucky. I've been in areas where they didn't get upset about that. They didn't have issues. So it's going to depend where you live. If you live in a more urban area, you're probably going to have more troubles than people living in a more suburban or country area where there's less, those type of people who are like, they get bothered by everything. So it's going to depend where you live, but pretty much the same as what I'm doing now. Just schedule it and send it out. If you live in a big city like Los Angeles and New York, it's probably going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to stick to maybe UPS and stuff like that, unless you have a garage or something. But if you're in those big cities, it's going to be less likely that you're going to have that garage. So basically just the same for me, though. I don't have experience, though, in a big city. So it could be different depending on where you live. All right, let's see. Kelvin Young. Hi, Todd. I was wondering what happens to sellers that have an IPI score under the 50 threshold for fourth quarter. Yeah, so that's something new. If you haven't heard, Amazon is basically going to be limiting your stock if you have an IPI score, and that is your inventory performance index is what that stands for, inventory performance index. So everybody has a score depending on how well you're managing your inventory, and that has to do with not having too much stock in Amazon, not having too many products out of stock as well. And if that score falls below 500, then your ability to bring stock into Amazon is going to be severely limited. So that's the main thing that's going to happen. So you're going to definitely want to get your IPI score above the 500. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can use the free removals they have right now to get old stock out of there. That's going to help. If you have listings that are out of stock and you're not planning on getting them back into stock, or even temporarily, you can go in there into your performance section and remove them from the restock list. So there's a little drop down, you can remove them, and then go into your inventory and disable that listing. And from what I understand, that then Amazon doesn't count that against your IPI score as a product that's out of stock and that you should be restocking. So that's one way you can get that up before the cutoff here, which is, I believe, maybe tomorrow, beginning of August. So you're going to want to do that right now if that is an issue for you. But basically, they're just going to limit your ability to send in product because you're not managing your inventory very well. Let's see, question from Al. For a big brand who is the person that has the power or authority to make my the only seller, I am planning to send a sample of bundles. So I didn't quite understand that. For a big brand who is the person that has the power or authority to make my the only seller, I think you got a typo there. So I don't quite understand what you are asking there, Al. So if you can rephrase that question for me, I'm not following exactly what you're asking. Carlos says, hey, Todd, would it be a good idea to open a small brick and mortar storefront to increase chances of opening wholesale accounts that otherwise wouldn't be possible? So I wouldn't do it only for the reason to open up accounts. If you can open up a storefront and maybe combine it with your warehouse and you're going to actually try to make the storefront profitable, then that might be a good idea. Or maybe you already have a warehouse and you can turn it into a storefront successfully. That would be a good idea. To open one only for the fact to open more accounts, I don't know if that would be the best idea. You're going to want to try to make it profitable, profitable retail business of some kind. So I wouldn't recommend doing it just for that. But if it makes sense, like if you're in a specific niche, like, right, I tell you guys I'm in the sporting goods all the time. So if I opened up a sporting goods store and like the front maybe 1,000 square feet, I made that a store, and then I have another couple thousand square feet or another 1,500 square feet behind that I can use as my warehouse, that would make sense because I'm carrying a lot of sporting good products, so I can put some of those out in the store, advertise that storefront, try to get some traffic and stuff like that, and make sales there. But you got to keep in mind that a lot of times they're going to check up on that storefront and make sure it's a legitimate business. So you're going to have business hours. You're going to have someone there manning the store, selling products. It's going to have to look like a real store. So you can't just, get an address and then not actually have a store, but say it's your store. So keep that in mind. It's something that I'm looking at for the future. If I can have a storefront inexpensively, in addition to the warehouse, it would make sense for me to do that. But otherwise, I'm not sure if it would make sense just for the fact to open up accounts that you can't open up. I think that's going to be changing more, right? Especially with this pandemic. Everything's going online. So these businesses that are relying on brick and mortar stores heavily, they're going to be hurting and they're going to want to go online. So hopefully more of that will loosen up for us and more of us will be able to buy without a brick and mortar store, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's see. Timothy asks, can you explain the buy box? There are times when I am amazed that sellers are in the buy box. I am always getting undercut too at prices that I don't even understand how they are making money. So yeah, the buy box is basically when you're going to an Amazon listing, the person that it shows that is getting the sale. Excuse me. Sometimes it's Amazon. Sometimes it's someone else. Whoever has the buy box is the person that's listed there underneath the price usually. It'll say like sold by XYZ, fulfilled by Amazon, right? That's the person in the buy box. And Amazon typically rotates that, but like I was saying in the beginning, right now there is either a feature or a bug that is causing that buy box to get stuck. And we all compete for that buy box. And sometimes, yes, you get those people who are undercutting you on price and driving down the price. And I've also seen it, wondering why or how is that person making money? And it all depends because their business model might be different for one. So if you look at big businesses like E-Tails or River Trading Colony, they are going for velocity and trying to sell a ton of product. And they're okay with getting 10% or 15% ROI on those product sales. So they are going down because they're selling hundreds of millions of dollars per year. 10% on 100 million is $10 million in profit. So they're okay with doing that. And that's their business model that they're going after. Other people, it might be that they're getting a better price than you. That is the name of the game in wholesale, is making your money on the buy side, right? When you're buying, that is where you're getting your profit. You need to make sure that you're getting the best discount possible. You're probably not going to necessarily get the best discount up front. So sometimes you might have to take a little lower ROI and build up that account that you have open to get future discounts. If you ask them sometimes, like I just asked a company, your prices are higher than this other distributor that I'm working with, and they let me know they have $50,000 in sales in a year, or in purchases in a year, I can move to tier 3. If I get 100 sales in a year, or in purchases in a year, I can move to tier 3. If I get $100,000 in purchase to pricing, so I get those different negotiating that you can do. So there's always those different negotiating that you can do, and you can get additional discounts on top of that. BuyBoxer, for example, Scott, one of the owners of BuyBoxer, he talks about how they routinely are looking for distributors where they can buy truckloads, so entire semi full of products. And so they are negotiating bigger discounts. So you might ask, how is it possible we can even compete with that? Well, you got to find the products that don't necessarily allow for those bigger discounts. There's some companies that will do that discounting, some companies that will not. And you got to find the products that are profitable, even at the smaller volume if you're just getting started, and work your way up to the larger volume. And as you go up, make sure you're asking for those discounts along the way. After you build that relationship, now you can start asking, hey, if I start ordering in a larger amount, or what amount would it take for me to get an additional discount on this? Or, hey, if I fix some of these listings, if you're talking directly with the brand, could I maybe get an additional discount? I think I could get sales from this to this, and see what they say. I've worked out agreements with like that. I've got one discount, or a couple actually. One is additional 5% discount that nobody else is getting because I improve their listings on Amazon. And another one is I am the only one who is allowed to buy direct from the brand. Everybody else has to buy through the distributor. So of course that's going to be a markup. So those are not easy to get. You get those after you build a relationship and they know, like, and trust you. But you can definitely do that. That opportunity is out there for you. So hopefully that answered your question on the buy box. Let's see, MMK. Todd, can you tell us pro and con about wholesale and private label? Yeah, I can touch on it briefly here. I've got a video, if you look on my channel, comparing the difference between retail arbitrage, wholesale, and private label. So that goes in more depth if you want to research it. But, wholesale, in my opinion, lower risk. You're buying usually established products or brands. We're buying in small quantities, to do our test orders, maybe 12, 24, 36. And with private label, you're buying literally maybe 250 or 500 or 1,000 to get the good pricing and bringing it in. Maybe you're shipping it from China or India or Korea or something like that. And so it's taking a long time to get here as well, where with wholesale, we're buying mostly in the USA or Canada or wherever you live. And so you can get that product in a week or two. And so it's a lot smaller time frame as well. It's not as big of a commitment up front. And we can also look at the Keepa graph, which I'm going to be doing a deep dive on the Keepa graph, by the way. I'm putting together a webinar that I'm going to be going into a deep dive on the Keepa graph. It's not going to be here on YouTube or anything, so watch for a link on that. But with the Keepa graph, we can look at the history of a product and get a really good idea on the price history and the sales velocity, and most likely be able to project into the future what that product is going to do. So to me, wholesale is a lot lower risk. I like private label. I've got my own brand. I'm trying to build that, but I've had multiple failures in that as well, where with wholesale, it's just a lot easier. And if I do have a failure in wholesale, I just clearance it out, move it on to the next product, and I'm good to go. So those are the main pros and cons. Let's see, Brian. Maybe I've misread, but do the new holiday requirements ask for 25 seller-fulfilled orders before a certain date? Does that mean FBA? Maybe I've misread, but do the new holiday... I am not positive on that, actually, Brian. Seller-fulfilled orders. So I'm not sure on the 25. I had not read that, but I'm assuming seller-fulfilled orders would be a combination of FBA and merchant fulfilled. I'm not sure if maybe they're setting a limit for new sellers. They don't want new sellers this holiday season, so you have to have some kind of a track record. That could definitely be the case. But if it's seller fulfilled, I would think it would mean probably both FBA and merchant fulfilled, but I could be wrong on that. Unless you're doing merchant fulfilled, maybe then they're meaning that. But I am not positive on that, Brian. Sorry. Grab a drink here. Anthony, Does the amount of time you've been an active seller affect your eligibility to win the buy box? What is a good strategy for new sellers to succeed? So it used to be that the answer to that was no. Now, though, it seems that the answer to that is maybe yes. I was talking about that buy box glitch or feature that Amazon, or that has happened on Amazon this past month. One of the opinions out there is that the people who are getting stuck in the buy box and that are staying in the buy box are the sellers with a high feedback rating, high seller feedback rating. I've been a strong proponent of getting seller feedback and requesting seller feedback. In the past, I do that. I have my virtual assistant using the Jungle Scout Chrome plugin. Every week, she's going to the orders page and hitting that request feedback button that Jungle Scout puts there for you. And because on every order, there's a button now that says request feedback and review. And Jungle Scout's plugin automates that. So she just goes in there, sets it to show 100 products or whatever the max is, hits that button, waits for it to go through, finish the process, goes to the next page, hits it again, next page, hits it again, next page, hits it again. And every week she's doing that for me. So I get usually 1, 2, 3, maybe up to 5 or 6 new seller feedback every single day. So it's going to depend on your sales velocity, right? Because I'm doing, last I checked, I think around 5,000 products per month that I'm selling. And I'm getting a handful or less of feedback per day doing that. But I've been doing that since the very beginning. I learned that from my private label days because you always wanted to request reviews and stuff. And along with that would come seller feedback. So I just continued doing that in wholesale, and I highly request everyone else to do that because it definitely is going to play a role, right? Why else would Amazon have the seller feedback? If you have positive seller feedback and a lot of it, of course, Amazon's going to trust you more. It's just like, you're looking at businesses you're trying to find a place to take your car to get it repaired. Do you go to the auto repair shop that has, 3 reviews and 3.5 stars, or do you go to the place that has 4.5, 5 stars and 1,000 reviews? You're probably going to go to the one that has 1,000 reviews and 4.5 stars over the one that has 3 reviews, even if it is 5 stars, because they're more established. So I definitely think it's something that's important, and it's probably going to become more important going forward as Amazon matures. Government is getting more on Amazon as well. They're pushing them harder to provide better products, stop knockoffs, support their sellers better, and things like that. So it just makes sense that they're going to start looking at that stuff more. So now, if you haven't already, I would get the Jungle Scout plugin and start doing that every week, or have your virtual assistant doing that every week, requesting that seller feedback. And it also helps to get reviews. I use that as a benefit for trying to get exclusives and stuff. I follow up with buyers, and I request reviews for our products, and I request seller feedback to make sure that we did a good feedback, but you can use it as a benefit to the brands and stuff out there as well, right? Because you're doing it and you can offer that to the brands out there also. So I've definitely used that when talking with brands. Let's see. Where did I leave off here? Al says, what person in a big company has the power to decide to make an exclusive agreement? Gotcha. All right. So in a big company, you never know. It's hard to say. Most of my exclusive agreements, all of them, so in a big company, it's going to be a lot harder, if not impossible, to get exclusives. Not impossible. but it's going to be harder. You're going to have to talk to probably or e-commerce manager. Some kind of manager level is probably going to have to make that decision. You might even have to go up to like the VP, Vice President of Sales, or something like that to be able to do that. But you're going to have to be a lot more proven and have a track record probably. Don't let that stop you from trying. Never, if you don't try, the answer is always, if you don't try, the answer is always no. So you got to at least try. It doesn't hurt to ask once you've developed that relationship. You don't want to ask up front, right? You want to build that relationship for a few months, get some orders, get some sales, and then maybe address that. Who calls you on the telephone? You probably get spam calls all the time. And, hey, we want to sell you a thanks, I'm not interested. If somebody called you and said, hey, you have an Amazon business, I'd like to take over all of your advertisement. Called you and said, hey, you have an Amazon business, I'd like to take over all of your advertisement. You want to sign this exclusive agreement with us? You're not going to just take some guy off. You're not going to just take some guy off the street who calls you. So keep that in mind. You need to build that relationship, and with a big business, it's going to even be more important. Get to know your sales rep, and then approach it. You need to get your sales rep on your side, so that your sales rep can take that to their manager. Books and stuff like that. You don't want to tell the salesperson what they should tell their manager. You want that the salesperson gets you and your salesperson a meeting with the manager. Explain it, and your sales rep can give you credibility because you built that reputation with them. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because the salesperson is not going to know how to properly explain what you're trying to explain to the manager. But at it. Timothy, following up on my question, how does it rotate and what weight is put on FBA and FBM? So in the past, number one, so FBA sellers trump FBM. FBM needs to be significantly lower price, like 10% or to capture the buy box from an FBA seller. But then also price has a lot to do if there's two FBA sellers per rating. So if I have 99% positive and you have lower than mine, they would probably give you the buy box. Now, it's not rotating quite as much on some ASINs. It's kind of hit or miss. It's all over the board. FBM was, I believe, if I remember right, the end or in disable every product that you have that's out of stock in your inventory. It takes a little refresh period. So smaller companies like us, we can move around and we can do that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. There is a lot of things that you can do that big businesses, Jane, Brian, Anthony, can you guys hear me? Am I still coming through?